I still remember walking into my first big school event, long before smartphones made social anxiety a little more visible. There I was, standing at the edge of a crowded gym, watching kids swarm around like bees at a honeypot, and then noticing one little face pressed against the wall, eyes wide, clutching a backpack like it was a lifeline. I've seen that same look hundreds of times since, parents unsure what to do, children frozen in place, feeling like the world is too loud, too fast, too everything. Shyness isn't a flaw. It's a temperament, a lens through which some children see the world more deeply, more carefully, but it can be exhausting for both the kid and the parent. And yet, so many parents panic. Why won't they just speak up? Why are they hiding? Am I doing something wrong? Today we're going to unpack shyness, not as something to fix, but as something to understand, guide, and gently nurture. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to support a shy child in a way that builds confidence without pressure, turns anxiety into curiosity, and helps them step into the world on their own terms. Because here's the thing, shy kids can thrive beautifully. They just need the right kind of care to bloom. I remember sitting on a park bench years ago, watching a group of kids tumble across the playground, shrieking and laughing, and then noticing one little girl curled up under the slide, tracing patterns in the sand with her finger. Most parents might have panicked or nudged her into the chaos, but I stayed back, observing. That tiny moment taught me a lot about what shyness really is. Shyness isn't laziness, defiance, or a lack of social skills. It's often a natural temperament, something children are born with. Some kids are wired to observe first, think deeply, and process before they act. They notice details adults often overlook, the way someone's eyes dart when they lie, the subtle social cues that others miss entirely. This careful observation is a strength, not a weakness, though it can make group activities feel overwhelming. Here's the tricky part. Shyness exists on a spectrum. At one end, you have the child who hesitates for a moment before answering a question in class. At the other, you might see a child who experiences physical tension, a racing heart, or even panic when faced with new people or situations. Understanding where your child falls on that spectrum is key because it determines whether gentle encouragement will work or whether they may need additional support to manage anxiety. One of the most important distinctions I've learned is between ordinary shyness and social anxiety. Ordinary shy kids may retreat initially, but gradually join in once they feel safe. Social anxiety can look similar at first glance, but the avoidance is intense, persistent, and often accompanied by stress so physical it can manifest as stomach aches, trembling, or refusal to leave the house. The stakes feel higher than the event itself. Sometimes, to the child, the whole world feels like an exam they aren't prepared for. Shy children also tend to be deeply empathetic. I've seen kids who barely whisper their own thoughts pick up on a friend's sadness before anyone else notices. Their brains are constantly scanning the environment, weighing risks and outcomes. It can be exhausting for them, which explains the wallflowers at birthday parties or the quiet kids at assemblies. They're not uninterested, just overwhelmed. Visualize this. A child standing at the edge of a school assembly, scanning the room, noticing the subtle ways classmates interact, the whisper of teachers giving cues, the micro-expressions of friends across the hall. To most adults, it looks like hesitation or fear. To the child, it's survival mode and social calculation rolled into one. Understanding this internal experience is the first step in helping them navigate it. So before we ever try to fix shyness, we have to see it clearly for what it is, a natural temperament, sometimes heightened by environment, always deserving of patience and respect. Shyness isn't a problem to eliminate, it's a trait to understand, guide, and eventually help translate into confidence. Parents. We mean well, but sometimes our instincts are, let's just say, counterproductive. I've seen it countless times. A parent at a school play or birthday party, eyes darting anxiously toward their shy child, whispering, "Go on, say hi, you'll be fine." Meanwhile, the child shrinks further into themselves, cheeks burning, wishing the earth would open up and swallow them whole. It's natural to panic when you see your child struggling socially. You want to protect them, make them comfortable, and honestly, you want them to fit in. But the first misstep is usually pushing too hard. Just talk, or why are you hiding? Sounds harmless, but to a shy child, it can feel like an impossible demand. You've just put them in the spotlight they weren't ready for, and their instinct? Freeze, withdraw, hide behind the nearest object, or you. Then there's the overcompensation trap. I've watched parents try to talk for their children, introduce them to everyone at a party, or enroll them in every extracurricular, hoping it'll magically fix the shyness. It's a logical approach. If they're socially awkward, expose them to more social situations, right? But what it often does is reinforce the child's belief that they can't handle social situations on their own. They start to rely on your intervention as a crutch, which, ironically, can make their anxiety worse in the long run. Criticism is another common misstep. Why can't you be more like your brother? Or, everyone else is fine, so what's your problem? That subtle comparison cuts deep. Children internalize these words, and it can make them feel flawed, incapable, or ashamed of who they are. Shyness isn't a flaw, it's a temperament, but constant criticism teaches them to see it that way. And let's not forget the school or public event scenarios. Parents sometimes drag their child into a group activity, insisting participation is mandatory, or call out their child in front of peers. The child complies, but inside, their anxiety spikes, they feel exposed, and the memory of the embarrassment can linger far longer than the actual event. One little girl I remember literally froze in the corner of the classroom during a group project, while her parent tried to coax her in, speaking louder each time. By the end, she wasn't participating at all, and now she associated group projects with panic. Here's where psychology comes in. Shy children often need what's called gentle scaffolding, a structured, supportive environment where they can gradually practice social interaction without fear of judgment. Too much pressure, anxiety spikes. No support, they retreat. The trick is finding the balance, being present, observant, and encouraging, but never forceful. So the next time you notice your child clinging to the sidelines, remember, your instinct to push, rescue, or criticize may come from love, but it can backfire. What they need instead is patience, respect, and opportunities to try social situations at their own pace. And as frustrating as it may feel watching them tiptoe through social waters while others swim freely, the truth is they're learning important skills: self-awareness, empathy, observation. All the subtle superpowers that shy kids carry with them into adulthood. Over the years, I've learned that helping a shy child isn't about forcing them into the spotlight. It's about creating tiny windows where they can peek out safely, explore, and eventually step out on their own. Think of it as coaching them to tiptoe into the world, rather than shoving them into a crowded room and hoping for the best. One of the simplest strategies is modeling social behavior without pressuring them. I remember a little boy at a local library who refused to speak to the librarian. Instead of dragging him forward, I knelt beside him, introduced myself, asked a few questions, and let him observe. Within minutes, he whispered a "hello," and by the third visit, he was checking out books on his own. Children learn by watching, and when they see calm, confident social behavior modeled without judgment, they start to internalize it. Another approach is gradual exposure. Start small. A play date with one friend instead of the whole class, a family gathering for a short period rather than the entire weekend, or volunteering to answer one question in class instead of giving a full presentation. Over time, these incremental successes build confidence. I've seen kids blossom when their first small victories were celebrated quietly, without fanfare, but with genuine acknowledgement. It's amazing how a tiny step forward can feel like climbing a mountain to a shy child. Encouraging hobbies and clubs tailored to their interests also works wonders. Whether it's a drawing class, chess club, or robotics team, activities where they can excel and engage in structured interaction help them build confidence naturally. I recall a quiet girl who refused all group sports but thrived in a creative writing club. She didn't just write beautifully, She started sharing her stories aloud in her own time, and suddenly, social interaction wasn't terrifying, it was optional and enjoyable. Equally important is validating their feelings. Shy kids often feel misunderstood, like their fears are silly or unnecessary. When a child says, "I don't want to go," dismissing it with, "Don't be ridiculous," only reinforces the anxiety. Instead, acknowledge it. "I understand it feels scary. Let's figure out a way that makes it easier for you." That simple validation shifts the child from feeling alone in their fear to feeling supported, and it teaches emotional regulation in the long run. Patience is critical here. Shy kids don't transform overnight. Some days they may take giant leaps, other days they retreat. But each small success is a building block. Visualize it. A child tentatively raising their hand to answer a question. A quiet nod in response to a peer. A smile shared with another child after weeks of watching from the sidelines. These moments may seem small, but to them, they're monumental. And let's not forget the quiet celebrations. Applaud progress privately, encourage reflection, and let them know their pace is okay. Over time, the shy child develops resilience, social skill, and most importantly, confidence rooted in self-acceptance rather than external pressure. Helping a shy child isn't just about social skills, it's about nurturing their inner world. I've watched so many parents focus solely on what their child does in public and forget what's happening quietly inside. The self-doubt, the racing thoughts, the intense sensitivity to every look and word around them. Supporting emotional growth means teaching them to navigate that inner world with confidence, not just survive the outer one. One strategy is teaching healthy self-talk. I remember a young boy who would mutter, "I can't do this," before even trying to join a group game. We practiced rephrasing it. "I can try this," or "I can watch first, then join." It sounds simple, almost silly. But for a shy child, changing the narrative in their mind is like giving them armor against the anxiety that holds them back. Over weeks, that whispered shift became a quiet mantra. And gradually, he started volunteering answers in class without panic. Coping skills for anxiety are another crucial tool. Deep breathing, visualization, or even having a safe object, a small toy, a notebook, a favorite pen, can help a child anchor themselves in moments of social stress. I once saw a shy teen clutch a tiny keychain while speaking in front of a class. To an adult, it looked trivial. To her, it was the difference between freezing in fear and delivering her lines with a steady voice. Small tools like this give children control over their environment, which builds emotional resilience. It's also about celebrating incremental victories. I've known parents who only notice the big moments, like the first presentation or the first handshake. But shy children thrive on smaller wins, a smile at the lunch table, asking a question in class, or even just making eye contact. These tiny achievements are what build lasting self-esteem. Visualize it. A child quietly answering a question, their hands trembling, eyes flicking to the floor, then looking up at the approving nod of a teacher or parent. That nod isn't just approval, it's validation that their courage matters. Another key component is helping them embrace their temperament as a strength. Shy children often become the most thoughtful friends, the most observant students, the ones who notice when someone is left out or needs help. I've seen kids blossom into creative problem solvers simply because they spent time quietly observing before acting. Teaching children that their introspection and caution are assets, not flaws, reshapes their self-perception entirely. And sometimes, humor helps. I gently remind children, yes, you might never be the loudest at karaoke, but watch you dominate a chess match. It's subtle, but it frames their difference as potential, not limitation. Supporting emotional growth is ultimately about patience, empathy, and gentle guidance. It's about letting shy children know that the world doesn't have to be conquered in one leap. They can step forward at their own pace, carrying self-assurance inside, not just hoping someone else gives it to them. Sometimes, no matter how patient or supportive you are, shyness can tip into something more serious, and that's when professional guidance can make all the difference. I've seen parents wrestle with this, feeling torn between waiting it out and worrying they might be missing a bigger issue. The key is knowing the signs without panicking. A child who consistently avoids social situations, experiences frequent panic or physical symptoms like stomachaches or headaches before school or social events, or refuses to participate in almost anything with peers may be showing signs of social anxiety disorder. It's more than normal shyness. It's an intense, persistent fear that disrupts daily life. One mother I know described her daughter as being frozen at the door every morning, unable to enter school without tears. Waiting it out wasn't helping. It was causing more stress and feelings of inadequacy. That's when seeking professional support made a real difference. Professional help doesn't mean your child is broken. It's guidance to help them navigate a world that feels overwhelming. Therapists, counselors, or social skills groups provide structured support where shy children can practice interactions safely. I've watched a shy boy in a social skills group learn to introduce himself, make small talk, and even join group projects, all under gentle guidance. The difference wasn't overnight, but the growth was undeniable. Sometimes the help comes in mindfulness or coping strategies like breathing exercises, grounding techniques, or visualization. These tools give children ways to calm their nervous system and approach social situations with a bit more control. Even subtle strategies, a favorite object, a quiet corner to regroup, a trusted adult to check in with, can make overwhelming situations manageable. And don't underestimate the role of parental coaching. Professionals can teach you how to scaffold social experiences without overstepping, recognize triggers, and validate your child's emotions effectively. A few small adjustments from you can amplify the impact of therapy or social skills training tenfold. Here's the thing. Asking for help isn't admitting failure. It's acknowledging that your child's inner world is complicated, and sometimes outside expertise accelerates growth and prevents long-term anxiety. Shy children can thrive on their own terms, but a little guidance at the right time can make the path smoother, less stressful, and ultimately more empowering. Visualize it. The same child who once froze at the door now walking into class with a steady step, greeting friends quietly, maybe even smiling at the teacher's nod. That progress isn't just about social skill, it's about emotional resilience, self-confidence, and knowing that the world isn't something to fear. It's something to navigate, slowly, deliberately, and with support when needed. So, to wrap this up, dealing with a shy child isn't about pushing, forcing, or criticizing. It's about understanding, patience, gentle guidance, and helping them build emotional strength from the inside out. Celebrate their small wins, validate their feelings, provide gradual exposure to social situations, and, when needed, seek support from professionals who understand the nuances of social anxiety. I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed these moments in your own child? Share your stories in the comments. I read every single one, and sometimes even respond personally. And if you found these strategies helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more honest, practical, and science-backed parenting guidance. Remember, your shy child has incredible potential. It just needs the right kind of support to flourish.